Commander Celine Varga hovered at the panoramic viewport of the Icarus Ascendant, the vast black canvas of space stretching before her. Nebulous clouds of emerald gas swirled like cosmic auroras, pierced by silver filaments of starlight. The ship's engines thrummed with a confident purr, an assurance that no frontier was beyond human reach. Yet beneath her composed exterior, Celine felt a tremor of anticipation. Today marked the first confirmed detection of sentient alien life beyond the outer colonies. In her 20 years of service, she had seen humanity's boldest dreams shrivel into disappointment. This time, she vowed, would be different. Signal stability? She asked, never taking her eyes from the dancing lights in the distance. Dr. Hiro Tanaka, chief xenoacoustic specialist, stood behind her with a compact scanner that flickered with multicolored glyphs. He was slight of build but brimming with excitement, his dark hair falling into his eyes, stable and clear. Commander, we've never seen anything like it. The laughter, it's not a byproduct of engines or seismic activity. It's deliberate, patterned, and undeniably organic. Celine's pulse quickened. Coordinates: Viridian Expanse Sector 7. We're on approach vector now, ETA 30 minutes. Lieutenant Mira Solis, Varga's second-in-command, emerged. From the corridor, she carried the standard issue exploration kit and advanced tricorder, a plasma sidearm, and an exosuit helmet under her arm. Mira's sharp eyes swept the room. I've assembled the landing party. Exosuits are prepped. Atmosphere analyzers calibrated. We're good to go once we have clearance. Understood. Celine replied. She tapped a holo icon on the console. Captain Hayes, you have the bridge. Let us know the moment we cross the drop threshold. Aye, Commander, came the crisp response. The shuttle Auriga peeled away from the mothership with a burst of plasma, carving a smooth arc toward the unknown world. Within the cramped cabin, Celine took a deep breath. She glanced at her team. Hiro's fingers danced over his scanner. Mira double-checked her sidearm's energy cell. And Corporal Dax, Rivera engineer, and part-time daredevil eyed the viewport with an eager grin. Remember, Celine said, voice firm, we're here to observe and learn. We don't provoke unless absolutely necessary. Got it, Mira replied with a nod. Dax let out a low whistle. Beautiful planet. Shame. If someone wanted to tear it apart for raw materials, let's not give them that reason. Celine shot back, though her lips twitched at his joke. She examined Hiro's scanner. Waveforms resembling laughter echoed across the display, their peaks and troughs forming intricate patterns. It's almost musical. Exactly, Hiro said, leaning in. My preliminary translation suggests multiple overlapping voices, each distinct, yet part of a coherent whole. Think of a choir where every singer rehearses their own tune, yet collectively, they create harmony. And this harmony, it's calling to us. A soft clang announced their entry into the planet's atmosphere. The shuttle rattled as ionized particles streaked past the reinforced hull. Outside the viewport, clouds of iridescent gas swirled. Beneath them, reflecting greens, purples, and golds like an otherworldly aurora. Mira activated the landing thrusters. Brace for descent. Moments later, they touched down on a landing pad carved from the planet's own crystalline minerals, and impossibly smooth, mirror-like surface that shone beneath the shuttle's lights. The hatch hissed open, releasing a rush of air charged with static. The laughter faint, now wafted through the open door. Celine led the way onto the crystalline ground. Each step triggered a gentle chime, as if the crystals themselves sang in response. Before them stretched a landscape both alien and mesmerizing. Hovering spires of violet quartz floated 50 meters above the surface, tethered by filaments of glowing energy. Jagged mountain-like structures of amber crystal rose on the horizon. The sky above pulsed with the dying light of the system's dim orange sun. Atmosphere breathable. Mira reported, voice crackling. Molecular composition within tolerance. Gravity at 88% of Earth's. Proceed, Celine said, drawing her helmet onto her head. The exosuit sealed with a soft hiss. HUD icons coming to life through the visor she saw. The world anew, bioluminescent veins weaving through the crystals. Tiny motes of light drifting like pollen. They advanced toward the nearest spire. The laughter grew clearer, more rhythmic. A soft trill, punctuated by sudden, high-pitched giggles. It reverberated through their bones, an emotion both inviting and unsettling. Corporal Rivera extended a scanner arm, swiping across the crystalline floor. Biomass detected. These formations, they're alive. Hero's eyes widened. Read the neural frequencies. The tricorder beeped. Neural signatures consistent with a hive mind. No separation between cells, each crystal is a neuron. In a larger brain, Celine's heart thumped. So the entire structure, every spire, every shard is part of one massive organism. Precisely, Hero said, voice hushed. It's like we're looking at the central nervous system of a creature the size of a mountain range. A low hum rose from the ground. The spires began to shift, rotating slowly as if orienting themselves toward the shuttle. The laughter coalesced into a single, beckoning call. Commander, Mira murmured, it's aware of us. The ground trembled. Crystalline outcrops sprouted from fissures, entwining their boots in sharp, translucent vines. Celine drew her sidearm, though she knew the energy blast would do little to shatter living crystal. Back up, she ordered, yet the vines tightened, pulling them closer to the spires in trance, a yawning cavern lined with pulsing veins of light. Hero's scanner flared red. The signal, it's pulling us in. It wants us closer to the core. Celine's jaw set. That's where we need to go, carefully. The laughter swelled, transforming from playful giggles to a deep, resonant choral chant that echoed through the cavern like the roar of a universe-born leviathan. Walls shifted, closing behind them as they stepped onto an elevated crystalline ramp that spiraled downward into shadow. Each footstep echoed in the vast chamber, the crystalline surfaces reflecting and refracting the bioluminescent glow. Tendrils of sound, each a distinct voice, brushed against their minds, curious, probing, amused. At the chamber's center lay a vast orb of living crystal, the core. It pulsed with every beat of the organism's collective consciousness, sending ripples of light across the walls. The laughter now was 1,000 voices united, inviting them. Hero raised his scanner. This is the grand concert hall. If we can record a full spectrograph of these waves, decode even a fraction. A violent quake shook the cavern. Crystalline shards rained from above. The laughter twisted into a mocking screech. Celine gripped her sidearm, orders tumbling through her mind as chaos erupted. Get back, she shouted. The ramp fractured, shards skittering toward them. Mira stumbled, her boot cracking a crystal filament. It writhed around her ankle, drawing her to the glittering floor like prey to a trap. Celine lunged forward, slicing the filament with her blade. Move, she barked. As they retreated, the walls pulsed, closing the exit. Hero's face was pale beneath his helmet. It's defensive now. Then we provoke only if cornered, Celine whispered, guiding Mira and Rivera down a side passage that glowed with cyan luminescence. The echoes of laughter chased them, fading as they descended farther from the core. Finally, they emerged into an antechamber. A deep silence blanketed the space. Somewhere above, a final chime of crystalline laughter rang out, an echo of both welcome and warning. Celine stood at the threshold, helmet visor fogged with her breath. We came for contact, she said softly. We found a living world, and it's more alive and more dangerous than anything we've ever known. Hero powered down his scanner, the glow fading. We have data enough for a lifetime of study. Mira slung her rifle, and nightmares. Rivera tapped his. Come, Auriga to Icarus Ascendant. We're secured in an antechamber. Situation is complicated. Requesting extraction timeline. Celine exhaled. On its way. But we stay until we understand what we've awakened. In the dead quiet, the crystalline walls pulsed faintly, an unseen heartbeat resonating through the very air. They breathed. Somewhere in the depths, the core lay dormant. For now, and humanity's greatest adventure had only just begun.
The corridors of the Icarus Ascendant thrummed with the steady heartbeat of its WARP engines until the first tremor shook the decks. Engineer Malik Sood was crouched before a diagnostic console deep in engineering, rerouting auxiliary power through a hastily jury-rigged junction to compensate for a failing plasma conduit. The console's holoscreen glitches flared from green to yellow, then red. Power instability in Sector 4, the AI intoned. its dispassionate voice untroubled by the alarm klaxons that now rang through the compartment. Structural resonance. Detected. Source unknown. Malik frowned at the readouts. That can't be right. He tapped the nearest sensor node, only to have it shatter like brittle glass. A whispering laughter rippled through the bulkhead speakers, low and seductive, drawing a tremor from his spine. He leapt to his feet as crystalline filaments burst from the walls, weaving themselves into the support struts. Sparks flew as metal, and crystal fused, growing tendrils that writhed toward the glowing plasma conduits. "Commander, this is engineering." Malik's cum crackled. "We've got something eating through the hull plating. Crystalline growth's organic, not mineral." The line went dead with a pop. On the bridge, Captain Rama Hayes peered at her display banks. Hull integrity sensors garbled their data. Bulkhead pressure gauges fluctuated wildly. Lieutenant Cho, divert all available power to shields along the port and starboard bulkheads. I want a full structural scan sweep of the entire ship. Lieutenant Cho's fingers danced over the controls. "Aye, Captain." Shield grid at 50% and climbing, the laughter crescendoed into a deafening roar. The entire bridge shook as if caught in a cosmic quake. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Crewmen cried out and stumbled. One technician, eyes wide in terror, tried to stand, but a crystalline vine snaked along the deck, wrapping around his ankle. He screamed as the vine tightened, pulling him across the floor toward a fissure that glowed from within like molten crystal. Hayes slammed her fist on the armrest. "Cut power to non-essential systems. Away teams to quarantine zones notify. Commander Varga at once." Moments later, the short-range cum beacon in the antechamber where Varga's landing party had sheltered crackled to life. Celine Varga's heart lurched at Malik's panicked voice. "Commander, the ship's under siege organic crystalline infection. We can't hold engineering. The growths are in the ducts, the conduits, even the gravity pylons. It's seal." "That channel," Varga barked. She rose from the damp antechamber floor, heart pounding. Around her, the crystal walls pulsed with a sickly blue glow, but engineering reports had reached them through a secure uplink. The creature aboard had found its way from planet to ship, and now it sang its deadly aria. "Get me Salis and Tanaka." Varga ordered. The hatch hissed. Myra Solis and Hiro Tanaka burst in, their exosuits still powered on emergency reserve. "Commander." Myra gasped. "We intercepted your call." "What's the situation?" Varga shoved a datapad into their hands. On its screen, schematics of the Icarus were overlaid with rivers of red and orange zones already compromised. Every bulkhead junction, every vent, every service crawl this. Things turning the ship itself into a hive. Malik says it's breeding in the weld seams. Nobody's safe. Tanaka's eyes narrowed. The laughter, it's a control mechanism. The resonance of its neural network is synchronizing with the ship's hull. We're being lured into resonance collapse. Then we stop the music, Varga said. How? Tanaka tapped his datapad. I can amplify an inverse waveform disrupt its neural coherence. But I need uninterrupted power and time, two things we don't have. Myra's tongue chirped. Captain Hayes to Commander Varga. Shields at critical. Boarding teams inbound. For evacuation. Bridge holding, but barely. Varga swallowed. Understood. We'll mobilize to engineering shut down the O conduits. Isolate the power grid. It might starve the organism. Mira hefted her rifle. Let's move. We can't let it reach the core. They burst through the hatch into a corridor, flickering with emergency red lights. The ceiling panels hung loose. Steam hissed from ruptured coolant lines. Crystalline veins snaked along the floor, pulsating as if alive. Varga's boots clacked on the plating, her pulse matching the throbbing of the alien veins. Keep your eyes peeled, she warned. It's in the walls and the vents. Don't get separated. Rivera slashed at a cluster of crystals with his plasma blade, but the shards merely scattered, fusing themselves to the hull. Each fallen fragment spawned two more. Damn it. Rivera cursed. They're multiplying. Mira leveled her rifle and opened fire. Blue-white bolts shattered the crystalline mass, but the fragments glowed brighter before dissolving back into the hull. The explosion sent jagged pieces ricocheting, embedding in her armor. It's adaptive. Tanaka shouted over the roar. Our weapons only make it stronger. Varga grit her teeth. Then brute force is out. We go for disruption. Tanaka, where do we plant the emitter? He consulted his datapad. At the main power junction engineering core node. If we can inject the inverse waveform directly into the primary bus, we can fracture its neural links. Lead the way, Varga said. They ducked into engineering, where the scene was worse than before. The deck heaved like the belly of some gargantuan beast. Control consoles were warped synthetic polymers, writhing under the crystalline intrusion. Sparks and shards rained down from the ceiling. Malik rushed toward them. Commander, thank the stars you're here. The containment fields collapsed. Nodes have been overtaken. We're losing pressure in secondary sectors. Where's the core node? Varga demanded. Malik pointed toward a circular chamber at the center of the room. Through there, but be warned, those fissures lead to the warp conduits. It's turned the drive shafts into incubators. They advanced, each step ringing with the creature's laughter, now a monstrous cacophony. Crystalline spines jutted from the floor, swaying like crystalline snakes in a storm. At the core node, Tanaka set down his equipment, a bulky generator with nanofiber leads. Stand back, he warned. He activated the device. Its speakers drummed, with a low counter rhythm, a sound so unnatural it made Varga's teeth ache in her skull. As the inverse waveform spread, the crystalline tendrils convulsed, their pulsing glow strobing in and out of sync. For a moment, it seemed to work. The walls shuddered. The symphony of alien laughter warped into discordant screeches. But then, the entire deck groaned like a dying leviathan. The core node shuddered and cracked. Tanaka yelled, "It's too strong, it's resonating with our signal." A deafening crack echoed through engineering as the main power conduit imploded inward. The force of the collapse threw everyone off their feet. Sparks and shards embedded themselves in the bulkhead as a shockwave surged outward, extinguishing emergency lights. The laughter returned richer now, deeper, as if the creature had consumed the inversion and grown stronger. Varga staggered to her feet, blood trickling down her temple. The walls around the core node bled crystalline fluid. Malik writhed on. The floor, clutching his arm where a tendril had broken through his suit. "It's absorbing our energy," he groaned. "It's feeding on the power grid itself." Mira fired at the nearest fissure, but the blast only caused the crystal to crack open, revealing a pulp of liquid light inside. The fluid seeped onto the deck, hissing as it dissolved metal. One pool coalesced into a humming orb, then split into dozens more, skittering across the floor like glowing insects. Varga kicked one aside, but it burst, sending splinters into her armor. She staggered, clutching her side. "Fall back," she ordered. "We can't hold this line." As they retreated, the creature's voice thundered through the hull speakers. A single word that reverberated in every mind aboard. "Welcome." The reply came not in words, but in action. Doors slammed shut across the ship, sealing off escape routes. Cones crackled with static. The lights flickered into darkness. In the void between pulses, between screams, the Icarus Ascendant took a final shuddering breath, its hull now alive, its corridors transformed into the veins of an unthinkable monster. And somewhere in the silence that followed the laughter, The ship itself whispered back, "We are one." The world went black.
Commander Celine Varga's boots echoed hollowly as she stepped over crystalline debris. Inside the Icarus Ascendant's shattered antechamber. Round her, the walls still pulsed with that haunting bioluminescence, the heartbeat of the spire creature, now fused to the ship's very hull. Across the floor, the remains of the landing party huddled. Dr. Hiro Tanaka, gaunt with fatigue, Lieutenant Mira Solis, rifle trained on every shadow, and Corporal Dax Rivera, nursing a jagged wound where crystal had torn through his suit. Beyond the sealed hatch, the Auriga's engines droned, ready for another run, but this time, the shuttle would ferry them into the belly of the beast itself. Varga cast a glance at the small viewport. Through it, she could make out the fractured spire rim hovering above the Icarus, its crystalline tendrils snaking into the hull like grasping fingers. "Hero," she said, voice low, "give us your status." He stood, brushing strange, powdery, crystal dust from his gear. The inverse waveform disrupted the neural pathways. Briefly, but the creature assimilated our signal and grew stronger, reconfiguring its own resonance. To integrate the emitter, he pressed a trembling finger against his scanner. "It's adapting. Faster than anything I've ever encountered." Rivera slammed a fist on his knee. "Then brute force is out of the question." "What next?" Tanaka's shoulders sagged. "There's only one way to undo what's been done. We must strike at its very core on the planet below, shattering the origin of its collective mind." Solis exhaled sharply. "You mean descending back into the spire, disabling the core at the source so the ship's infestation starves?" Varga nodded. "We came here to learn, not just to fight. We must sever the creature's mind at its birthplace. Without the core's guidance, its copies in this ship will die back." A hush fell as they absorbed the plan. Each understood the stakes. Failure meant being trapped, consumed, or worse, returned home as harbingers of a living monstrosity capable of devouring worlds. 20 minutes later, the Auriga's hatch hissed open onto the planet's glittering surface. The landing party, newly rearmed with modified blast charges and Tanaka's inverse wave attenuators, hefted their packs and plunged into the alien twilight. The crystalline landscape stretched before them, floating spires now dimmed, their glow vulnerable without the ship's humming energy to reinforce them. "Atmospheric analyzers report trace residues of crystalline spores," Solis noted as she triumphed across fractured crystal plains. "Breathing's still okay, just don't inhale too deeply." They navigated along a frozen river of hardened light, its surface veined with fissures pulsing cobalt. Each step resonated like a tolling bell, the hollow echoes carrying distant laughter, muted now, but still present, as though the planet itself remembered their earlier intrusion. After an hour's trek, they arrived at the spire's base, a gargantuan crystalline tower, its surface carved with conduits and fractal growths that spiraled upward to unreachable heights. Swaths of the structure had collapsed in their previous assault, revealing a gaping maw leading down into shadow. Varga unfastened a cable from her pack. "We rappel," she said, handing one end to Solis. "The path is unstable. We need to control our descent." Dax grunted as he clipped in. "Let's just hope this monster's core is still where we left it." "Alive enough," Tanaka murmured. "I can feel its resonance like a heartbeat." Varga glanced at her team, everyone ready. Silence answered her. Then, one by one, they stepped off the rim and into the darkness below. The cavern that greeted them was vast beyond comprehension. Crystalline pillars soared into gloom, their tops lost in shadow. The walls vibrated with a low chord, a throbbing song that thrummed through armor and bone alike. Magical motes of light drifted in the stale air, ghostly echoes of the spire's earlier glow. Solis swept her rifle light across the chamber. "No sign of movement," she said. "Just that. Hum. Keep your distance," Varga warned. "The last thing we need is a tendril springing out of the dark." They picked a cautious path along a ledge of glassy crystal, each footstep a prayer. Occasionally, Dax paused to study a growth, chiseling a small fragment to preserve the specimen. But the further they went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became, as if the cores were pressed inward, warping space itself. After 10 tense minutes of winding corridors, They reached the heart chamber, the same place they'd triggered the initial collapse. Now, stripped of its fissured walls, the core lay exposed, a gigantic crystalline orb, at least 5 meters in diameter, suspended in mid-air by a lattice of glowing veins. It pulsed with light and sound, oscillating in hypnotic waves that twisted the chamber walls like reflections in warped glass. That's it, Tanaka breathed. The Gestalt nucleus. Vargas studied the orb. How do we destroy it without triggering another adaptation? Tanaka shook his head, face pale beneath his helmet. We can't destroy it with brute force. We must fracture its coherence, break the waveform that holds the individual crystals in harmony. He set down his equipment, a sleek device shaped like a tuning fork, its prongs wired to a power cell the size of a grenade. This is a quantum disruptor. If I can generate a counter-resonance at the core frequency, it'll shatter the synchronization. The nucleus will fragment, and the hive mind will collapse. Rivera frowned. That's a hell of a risk. We detonate that in this chamber, are we even getting out? Varga placed a hand on his arm. We'll climb up the support veins and rappel back out before it finishes. We have 70 seconds of delay once it activates. Solus readied her comm. I'll give the signal when the vines above start to glow. We pull and ascend. Tanaka's fingers flew over the disruptor's interface. Frequency locked for 0.8 petahertz resonance. Power at 90% capacity. He took a steadying breath. I need 30 seconds to charge, then I'll trigger. Varga nodded. We'll cover you. As the device hummed to life, the chamber quivered. The core's pulses accelerated in response, as though it sensed the threat. Veins of light along the floor raised in arches, linking directly to the orb, as if the creature sought to draw their energy back into itself. Tanaka's voice was calm but urgent. 3, 2, 1, now. He slammed his fist down on the activator. The disruptor screamed, a pure, piercing tone that blasted through the low hum of the chamber. Crystal veins rattled. The orb flashed white-hot. Almost instantly, the core began to fracture, hairline cracks spidering across its surface, spreading in fractal patterns. Vargas seized Dax's arm. Now, they leapt for the hanging support veins. Solus fired plasma bolts at the fraying attachments, severing them one by one. The orb's fractures grew until it shattered in a riot of shards, each fragment exploding outward like fireworks. Light and sound cascaded in a blinding chorus. Behind them, the chamber collapsed in on itself. Pillars buckled, walls imploded. The pressure wave knocked them from the vines. For a terrifying second, they plummeted until Varga's gauntlet snagged a crystal root, slowing their fall. Dazed, they scrambled upward, the ground trembling below as the remains of the hive roiled in their death throes. Gasping, they hauled themselves over the edge and into the narrow conduit. As they climbed, the roar of destruction faded into an echoing silence. The choir finally silenced. Celine's helmet HUD flickered. I'm reading. Nothing. No resonance. Solus let out a long breath. We did it. Dax lowered himself onto solid ground. Let's get back to the Icarus, with whatever is left of our skins. Tanaka glanced once more at the chamber's gaping maw, now eerily still. The origin is gone. Without its command, the copies aboard the ship will collapse within minutes. Varga gave a curt nod and led them toward the exit. Behind them, the heart of the monster lay in ruin, its laughter forever stilled. In the dying light of the alien world, the shuttle rose toward the battered Icarus Ascendant. As they climbed through the sky, Varga allowed herself a moment to look back at the shattered spire. Now little more than a field of glinting rubble. We've paid a price, she said softly. Hiro Tanaka's voice was quiet in her ear. We've saved 1,000 more. Celine didn't dare correct him. Instead, she watched the planet grow small beneath them, its silent witness to both the terror they faced and the courage they summoned to conquer it. The Auriga shuddered as it docked with the Icarus Ascendant, its once pristine hull now marred by jagged crystalline growths and burned scars. Commander Celine Vargas stepped off the ramp into floodlit corridors that smelled of phosphor and ionized metal. The ship's emergency lights cast an otherworldly glow, revealing crystalline fragments embedded in bulkheads, like the frozen tears of some colossal beast. Around her, medics tended to wounded crew members. Engineer Malik soothed, his arms wrapped in pressure bandages, Corporal Dax Rivera, every breath a wince of pain. Lieutenant Mira Solis, shaken but unbowed, checking her rifle's charge cell for the 4th time. In the recesses of her exosuit, Dr. Hiro Tanaka's scanner hummed softly, still attuned to the faintest echo of alien resonance. Now reduced to a ghostly whisper, "Status report," Varga said, her voice taut. Captain Rama Hayes approached, flanked by 2 security officers. Infection collapsed at 04:03 local time. Exactly 12 minutes after core disruption. Hull reinforcements held at 85% integrity. No further breaches detected. Power grid stable. Engineering estimates full system restoration within 48 hours. Varga exhaled. "Good work." She met Malik's eyes. "You saved the warp drives." He gave a weak thumbs up. "Barely. Some conduit junctions will need replacement. But nothing beyond field repairs. Anything left down there?" she asked, nodding toward Tanaka. He shook his head. "The planet's been scoured of living crystal. What remains is inert like frozen slag. I brought samples, but no neural signatures. The organism is gone." Solis stepped forward. "Sir," she glanced at Varga, then back to Hayes. "Permission to address the crew." Hayes nodded. "Granted." Solis cleared her throat, her voice ringing through the Carter's PA. "All hands. This is Lieutenant Solis. Hostile organism is neutralized. Damage is contained. Casualties are minimal, but we honor those who fell defending our ship. Report to your sectors for debrief and rest." A ripple of relieved applause answered her, a rare sound on the hard-edged decks of war-sheened explorers. 3 hours later, Varga stood on the observation deck, gazing at the fractured spire still suspended above the planet's surface. Its crystalline shards drifted in the Icarus's tractor beam, collected for study. Behind her, Tanaka, Solis, and Malik reviewed holo projections of the core's spectrograph, overlaying the inverse wave imprint. "It adapted faster than our worst predictions," Tanaka said. "Within minutes, 3 new resonant harmonics emerged, each a defensive matrix. We countered 1, but the other 2 nearly overwhelmed us." Varga traced the spiraling patterns with her finger. "It learned from us," Malik frowned. "Adaptive alien hive mind. What did we expect? We breached its nursery and it responded." Solis crossed her arms. "But we prevailed. We did the impossible." Varga nodded, but her gaze never left. "The broken spire. At what cost?" she whispered. Tanaka touched her arm. "Cost and victory go hand in hand. We saved the Icarus. We saved countless future lives." She turned to him, eyes softening. "And we carry its lessons into the stars." The ship's chapel was quiet when Varga entered, soft luminescent panels instead of candles, the very air humming with low frequency. Alcoves. On a semicircular dais lay a memorial plaque, 5 names inscribed in alloy: Lieutenant Asha Patel, Chief Engineer Bruno Weiss, Marine Sergeant Halvorsen, and 2 others lost in the initial breach. A small crystalline fragment pulsed on the altar, harvested from the core's first fracture as testament to their sacrifice. Varga knelt before the plaque. "You gave everything," she said, voice trembling only slightly. "Your courage is our foundation. We will not forget." Above, the corridor lights dimmed to a gentle glow, the ship's way of honoring its dead. Varga placed a hand on the crystal, feeling a faint warmth, a pulse that reminded her of a heartbeat. The specimen glowed once, then settled into a steady glow. 3 days later, the Icarus Ascendant broke free of the planet's gravity well and set course for the nearest research outpost. In the science bay, Solis, Malik, and Tanaka worked alongside xenobotanists and xenopsychologists, cataloging crystal fragments, filing neural scans, and reconstructing the organism's genome. Data streamed across holoscreens, genetic sequences, neural bridge topologies, adaptive resonance graphs. Solis watched as Malik injected a stabilizing compound into a sample. "Think we can replicate its neural lattice for synthetic applications?" she asked. Tanaka shook his head. "Legally and ethically, it's a minefield. But the inverse wave protocols, those alone, could revolutionize antiviral defenses. Perhaps even non-lethal crowd control." Varga entered, carrying 2 trays of nutrient gels. She offered one to Solis. "Good morning." she said quietly. Solus smiled, accepting the gel. Not bad, ma'am. Varga took a seat beside Tanaka. You're making progress? He swiveled his holo display. The data is troves, but the organism's integration of shipboard metals into its nervous system that we didn't anticipate. It literally incorporated titanium and graphite into its neural filaments. That's new. Varga leaned in. So we need to study how it did that. Understanding its assimilative process could help us repair composite hulls far more resilient. Solus raised an eyebrow. You're thinking ahead. Commander Varga allowed herself a small smile. A ship that learns from every impact. Thank you. Dr. Frankenstein. As the Icarus cruised through the void, its corridors filled once more with the routine rhythm of exploration, drills, research, leisure in the hydroponic dome. But the memory of crystalline laughter lingered in every deck, the creak of the hull, the soft hum of the engines, even the flickering lights at night. In her quarters, Varga activated the personal log. Stardate 5289.4. The living ship is dead, but its echoes remain within these walls and within us. We faced a creature that laughed at our presence, turned our home into its flesh, and nearly consumed us all. Yet we endured. She paused, fingers hovering over the holo keyboard. We carry its warning like a scar. The universe is more alive than we dared imagine. And where there is life, there is conflict and possibility. She powered down the log, settling into her bunk. Outside, the stars drifted by, silent witnesses to humanity's ongoing odyssey. In the final moments before sleep claimed her, Varga recalled the core's last cry, a singular, fractured note that sounded almost like a plea. Somewhere in that resonance lay the organism's last vestige of soul, lost in the collapse. Her eyelids drooped. Fair winds, she murmured to the void, and may we meet with wiser hearts. The Icarus Ascendant sailed on, a warrior reborn, its hull now a testament to both horror and hope. And as the ship slipped into the starlit currents, a single crystalline fragment pulsed once more, quiet, gentle, as if sending a benediction across the dark expanse.